Oroba Bieng. All right, there we have it. Okay, Steve, happy to have you as well. I think we should start with what transpired with the BBI in Kitui. The panelists who are here before you, and that is on AM Live, were arguing over the fact that was the Kitui governor, who was a host, intolerant in ordering Moses Kuria ejected from the function. Steve, what was your reading of the situation?
Well, I think it's both right and wrong, right in the sense that you cannot decampaign BBI and expect a red carpet reception at a BBI support rally. I mean, if you decampaign BBI, you stay away from BBI popularization rallies. So that's right in that, in that context. But the humiliation of an elected leader, or any other Kenyan for that matter, just because of their strong view or opposition to a document, does not require also merit such kind of excessive reaction. So excessive, yes. What was anticipated reaction? You could anticipate that Moses Kuria and those people that decampaigned BBI could be booed and jeered. That was expected. But what was excessive is the kind of humiliation that he faced. Perhaps also that is what he expected. You know, these politicians, they communicate. They know the time to enter, and ideally, because there's protocol, if the key principles are already seated, there's a way you get to arrive ahead of the key principles. Like, for instance, if the president is attending a function, you can't come in that function after the president has arrived. It's not courteous. But it seems that Moses Kuria timed his arrival to match Raila's arrival, so that he just arrives after to create a stir and a scene. His humiliation, I'm sure, did not surprise him, because I'm sure he totally anticipated that, but the excessive nature is what shocked Kenyans. So bottom line is this. The people that are half-hearted insofar as support for BBI is concerned should create, and I support the idea of parallel BBI rallies, so they can say whatever they want about BBI in those rallies in their own forum. But if you are crashing, let's say crashing a rally where people are passionately defending BBI without reservation, then you better come early and sit quietly unless invited to talk. Otherwise, the day Murkomen did in Mombasa, he did very well. He knew that the crowd could be potentially violent, not necessarily violent, but unreceptive. So he knew how to pander to the crowd, just calling Raila Odinga Baba, punctuating his statement with Baba all the time, and it worked. So I think that is what happened in Kitui. Moses Kuria anticipated the kind of reaction he got, although it was excessive, to say the least.
Okay. Gloria, he says Moses Kuria more or less get crushed the event. But isn't this meant to be open to everyone?
Yes, and first of all, we have to understand, get crushing. You get crushed an event that you're not invited to. But all we've been hearing is that this initiative is supposed to bring together the Kenyans from all corners. And so in respect to that, forget the semantics of arriving early, late, whatever. I keep asking myself, what if you actually just smoothed these opposers with love, What if they want to create all this kind of antagonism, coming in late, trying to, get all the attention and all of that? What would have happened if the hosts would not have uttered those words and actually said, you know what, bring him to the front, thank you very much, here's your seat? What would have happened?
Wait, so are you saying their aim is to disrupt these gatherings?
We wouldn't know. We wouldn't know, because, I mean, as he said, if you're going to a presidential function or any other function, you know the protocols around it. And so you try as much as possible as a guest, as an invited guest, because we are all invited guests to these forums. You try as much as possible to actually take to what is expected of you. But in the event that you don't arrive early or not seated where you want to sit, and you are trying to force your way to sit at the VIP list. This is what I always say, the easiest way to shut down any kind of controversy is to, smother them with love. Say, Karibu, sit here, what is it you want to say? Actually, it would really, they would be shocked because they didn't expect that. And for me, one of the things that, it was very disappointing as a woman to see another woman actually playing into that politics. And if you notice, she was the only one who vocally, said, mtu atoke hapa,
But she was a host.
It's okay, but it doesn't look good even to us.
So in a sense, they were in her house, so it was for her to dictate who is going to come in or not come in.
There are better ways to do that, because you could have also, without all the drama, they could have also, quietly said, you know, you've arrived late or whatever. That whole thing of creating
a
disturbance and actually, you know, feeding into it. It's almost like you're breathing oxygen into something that would have otherwise been ignored, and the whole charade that happened would have just not been there, and would have been focusing on the issues that were brought up, which actually this rally was the first time that I felt amongst all the rallies, the BBI rallies, this was the first rally that I actually saw particularly women, led by Elachi, go on the podium and actually talk about issues. It was issue-based, and we were finally discussing the things that this BBI whole initiative was supposed to accomplish, as opposed to personalities who came early, you know, things like that.
Do you agree with her sentiments as far as, at least as far as this particular forum is concerned, that the issues were finally put on the table?
Well, you know, they always put issues on the table, but what Kenyans must be alive to, if you look at the 9-point agenda of the BBI, to be honest, I can tell you as a legal expert, and also even as a political analyst or observer, I don't like to be characterized as a political analyst.
Pandit?
I mean, just as a legal expert, I can tell you the 9-point agenda, what is important there that involves the people? Conversation around building national ethos, conversation around building a cohesive country. This is a broader conversation that cannot be led by politicians. And they understand the limits. Because you see, if you talk about deterioration of ethos, raising ethnic martyrs, people who fight for leaders to get into office, you know, it's like making a moral appeal to your oppressor. That's why they are your oppressor anyway. They don't care about what, they don't have a settled sense of what right and wrong. What these BBI meetings are all about, and I say this with tremendous respect to the political elite, it is about, again, organizing power ahead of 2017 and mobilizing support for that arrangement that is emerging. There's an emerging political formation, and BBI proponents are seeking validation of the people towards that emerging formation. That is what this rally is all about.
So at that point, you agree with the DP, William Ruto?
Of course, I agree with DP on that issue. The thing is this, if you look at the context of the BBI, the broader context, BBI has some transformative potential in the broader context. But in the context of these campaigns, they are enforcing a perception that seeks to exclude William Ruto from the presidency. I mean, there are many ways to achieve that without getting into all these detailed, you know, prolonged rallies and all that. You can just say, if the president is unable to work with William Ruto for one reason or another, I mean, lawyers can give you a predictable pathway in the Constitution that can permit the president to circulate William Ruto out of power. Because you see, the presumption that you are elected as a ticket also rests on the assumption that you are able to work together. If you're unable to work together, or if the deputy president is undermining the presidency, then the president can say, I want the lawyers to reinterpret these provisions of the Constitution, let's say Article 145, in the context of our changing circumstance. Our changing circumstance being, I have a deputy president that is actively sabotaging my work, and I don't want to work with him. Forthright, we will give you the answers.
So what?
But in the context of the rallies, drumming support under the camouflage of promoting BBI is also being dishonest. You get it? The conversation, and I like that the church is now coming. If you look at the recent tweets, the All Saints Cathedral, for instance, is coming up with a BBI public forum. Now, in such a forum, you have an opportunity to debate Kenya, because politicians are not there. As Kenyans, you have an opportunity to debate or plug in and debate into this part of the conversation that involves you, but which politicians don't want to deepen. The discussion on why we must always have dead bodies at the end of every election. It's a discussion that cannot be answered by politicians. It's a question that can only be answered by people who fight for politicians. They can have since there is tranquility, there's peace, people can sit in forums such as what has been organized by the All Saints Cathedral and many other forums that exist that are neutral forums, not calculated towards excluding Ruto or introducing new formations, to ask us, and I always ask this, why should we raise ethnic martyrs ahead of every election? BBI presents that opportunity to answer that question. So what I want Kenyans to know is this. They have an opportunity to refuse that the BBI transformative potential should not be hijacked by the political agenda. Okay. As it is now, the political agenda is the driving force behind these BBI rallies. The other intimate issues that concern Mwananchi are not really at the center, and those must be discussed elsewhere.
Okay. And you raise an interesting point, and I want to come back to that. Because in my mind, I thought the president and his deputy are attached at the hip and they're stuck together, at least for the duration of their term in office. But Gloria, before I come back to Steve for that, the BBI task force is scheduled to hold its first validation hearing on Wednesday. What, in your mind, will make it different from the hearings they had pre the BBI report?
I think touching on what Steve was talking about is if we take away this whole political angle of the BBI and just focus on the issues that were actually raised, the intentional issues that were raised with the BBI, the 9-point agenda, is I really hope, I'm waiting to see, we've had conversations around the type of representation that is going to be in those forums, because, you know, the political rallies that are there, it's really a matter of whoever can wake up and go and sit and be an audience, because you don't necessarily see the common mwananchi going to the podium and saying, actually, me, I have read that document and, you know, this is what I would like for you to cover in these two places. So what I really am looking forward to see is the kind of representation we are going to have, the people who are going to be taking up those debates in those forums. Are we going to have representation in terms of gender? Are we going to have representation in terms of youth? Because one of the biggest things that has been lacking with this Building Bridges initiatives, from the onset, we have not had youth representation. We have not had a person who the youth can actually have faith and trust that this person is really speaking to us and making sure that our issues are being attended to. What we see is a lot of respected, I am very careful about this, but senior citizens who, you know, have been around, they have good advice to give us, but we don't necessarily see them relating to the youth in terms of, right now, if you ask any youth right now, what does BBI bring to you? I think only the 2 points that come about is that some of them say, oh, when we have our startup, we will not be taxed for a couple of years or whatever. But besides that, nothing, you know? So, and that angle of it, as much as they're saying, oh, we assure you, it is, you know, we are looking into your interest and stuff like that. I want to see people telling me what you're going to do with the arts and culture in this country, and how is that going to be reflected in this initiative? Because again, the youth are the ones who go to the streets to literally, during elections, some of the issues that they're trying to fix start from the youth being unemployed, start from the youth being used as tools of all sorts of violence or whatever. So who is going to actually sit in that forum? That's the first thing that I would like to see. And from what angle are they going to represent the youth, women, and those the issues that are touching on that? And also, what are the outputs? Because again, we have discussions, you know, but what are the outputs? What do we intend to achieve in the next, say, 12 months? Are we going to say, after the BBI initiative, we are going to go to the Arts and Culture Ministry and we are going to have sit-downs and address whether it's issues on copyrights and arts? And, you know, there has to be some outputs, not just beautiful bureaucratic documents that are there.
Okay, Steve, in your mind, is this process about drafting a referendum bill?
No, there are two things here, and you asked an important question. You see, when the BBI technical team or the committee that drafted this report, when they meet for a second round, and it's right within the law to seek validation, that is now the formal process of getting feedback. And I urge all Kenyans to turn up. I think there's something that I need to settle, and which Kenyans need to understand. BBI in and of itself is an excellent opportunity. I mean, anybody who comes and campaigns that aspect is not a serious person. BBI opens an opportunity to discuss issues that ail this country. But that's not the same thing that what the politicians are saying. Politicians are also, they're sectoral people. They care about organization of power going into 2022, and they're running away with that agenda. The problem is with Kenyans who are being left behind and are refusing to take opportunity. So two things. One, on the committee, the BBI task force, they will receive feedback. And I think the LSK also, as lawyers, will also go and give feedback there. We don't want arrangement or adjustment to the Constitution that take away our core commitments, number one. So whatever politicians propose, we must test it against what is provided for in the law. Like, for instance, I can tell you by way of example, the lawyers will not accept any proposal that changes the organizational structure of IBC as to kick out commissioners before they complete their term, because they have security of tenure. So no matter what you want, we can't alter that. Another thing...
But isn't it a matter of public confidence?
No, that's a different issue. Then if you see, public confidence presupposes you've done something wrong, which then erodes public confidence. And if you've done something wrong, which erodes public confidence, there's the procedures for removal. Gross misconduct, if you look at the Constitution, the phraseology of gross misconduct as a ground for removal is intended to cover any such opportunity, possibility. You know, because there could be endless possibilities that could lead to removal of IBC commissioners, of the impeachment of the deputy president under Article 150. The law allows for impeachment on gross misconduct. So there are many ways for removing people. You must stick to the Constitution. The other thing that lawyers will be saying, again, if that opportunity emerges from this week, there are beneficial changes to the Constitution that may touch on entrenched provisions of the law, which ordinarily would require a referendum. But if those changes intend to deepen the Constitution's core commitment, then you don't have to do a referendum. For instance, if you are changing the Constitution to improve the threshold of what goes to the counties, and I said from 15%, which is what it is now, to 45%, that's a beneficial change. If there is doubt, you can seek judicial pronouncement of the issue. And I'm saying that every time you want to improve devolution funds, you don't need to go back to the people for a referendum. The idea behind a referendum is to safeguard what the people had committed and given to themselves, being changed by elected leaders who can conspire to undermine the will of the people. If you are changing the Constitution as to remove devolution, now you certainly require a referendum. The other example that I'm talking about from a legal perspective, if you're talking about altering the format in the National Assembly, if you're creating the position of a non-executive prime minister, who is basically like a glorified CS, and the president has already done that through an executive order, you know, to supervise and coordinate all ministries, you may not need a referendum. But if you're altering so significantly, you know, the arrangement and the functions and the roles of parliament away from what the people anticipated, then you may need a referendum. So it's that kind of conversation and feedback that will be given the community, this task force. And I urge other Kenyans to go and participate in these forums. Okay. What other Kenyans must do is this. What the BBI task force will not achieve and the political elite will not achieve is consolidating conversation that ought to happen elsewhere.
Okay, and let's come back to that. Gloria, this Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, is it the 8th? We expect the Murkomen-led team to have a parallel rally, this time in Nakuru County. Is this a crossroads?
First of all, I don't see it as a parallel rally. Because if we are being told that the BBI is for everyone, for instance, if I decide as Gloria that I am going to go back to my county in Kisii and say I'm going to call all the women and youth leaders and say, okay, you know, we are going to have a gathering and we are going to talk about BBI, and my intentions is to understand the document, and my intentions is not only to understand it but also sensitize those who are unable to read or who are unable to access this document, then would you call that a parallel rally, or would you call it a civic discussion sensitizing the people on what's happening? Because what people are forgetting is that you're assuming that 47 million Kenyans actually have read this document, understand it, and are able to come to the table, same basis with Beatrice Elachi, and discuss issues on women. That is a very wrong assumption. So if the leaders on community level, on national level, on whichever level want to go and you know, get gatherings for purposes of sensitization and for purposes of understanding the implications of the BBI to their communities, I don't think anyone should be stopped. And it is very unfair, so to speak, to start, and this is that issue of now politicizing the BBI. Because, I mean, church leaders are doing it, but nobody's shedding light on it.
You spoke about All Saints Cathedral.
They're doing it, but nobody is looking at it as a rally that is, you know, parallel to whatever it is going on. They're just looking at it as a gathering. Okay. So it's also a narrative that I believe we need to stop. This is an initiative that is supposed to be supported by everybody, all the Kenyans from all over. And if their way of doing it is in bars, by dancing to understand what it is, in churches, or in forums or gatherings like that of Murkomen, then I think people should be given that opportunity so that by the time they come to the official task force gatherings or the rallies that are being taken on by the politicians, then they're able to sit there and decipher, oh, that is what they're talking about. Yes, we discussed it last weekend. I don't see it as a crossroad.
You don't see anything wrong with it?
It is a parallel rally, and I support it for this reason. First of all, it's parallel to the mainstream interest, mainstream political interest. So it is right to characterize Tangatanga BBI rally, and them, Aaron Cheriot tweets, and many of them characterize themselves as Tangatanga. So they have accepted that terminology. Those MPs allied to William Ruto, Deputy President William Ruto, have already characterized themselves as Tangatanga. So the Tangatanga BBI rally is properly characterized as parallel because it's running against an emerging political formation, and they are right in doing so. You see, I've already said, the BBI context, led by the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, at the center of these BBI meetings is how to consolidate a new formation that excludes William Ruto. I mean, it's so clear to admit that. What is unclear is whether it has the full approval of the president or not. You get? But as it is, it seems that the president has some tacit approval of what goes there. But Tangatanga members have a right to convene a parallel BBI rally to also preserve the support that Ruto enjoys. The bottom line is this. You can see, Kenyans can see, the politicians care more about controlling the political arrangement come 2022. That's what they care about more. Okay. And you're waiting for them to shape that conversation, and then when they're done shaping it, to see how you fit in. That's what I'm saying. There's need for a parallel, talking about parallels, a parallel complementary forum that does not discuss politics, discusses issues that concern Wananchi. Right now, political elite will not consider issues concerning Kenyans priority before they settle the political question. We need to agree on that first.
Can I interject? When you talk about you are 100% sure that these rallies are actually going to feed into the... I mean, there's this assumption that we put out there because it has not happened, first of all. We are yet to see a rally that is being led by, let's say, DP followers or supporters who are we are yet to see a rally where we actually say, these people are against BBI. They have come out and said they support it. They have come out and said...
against BBI.
Yes. No, but so that's what I'm saying. For you to assume that the sit down or the gathering is going to be about plotting how to defeat this thing or how to use it for whatever, that is first of all an assumption. And I believe that just as we are giving a lot of people the right to go out and engage in whatever forum, I think we should also stop putting blanket statements on people.
So you want to give them the benefit of the doubt?
I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I actually would like for them to organize something that will put all these shenanigans to rest, where we actually see public participation in a positive light. Because what has been happening is they are suffering from what we call character assassination even before they go out and put themselves to the forum. Yeah.
Right. And Steve, I want to, because we have such a limited amount of time. We just have a few more. Yes, but briefly, Steve, as you answer that, President Uhuru Kenyatta has become increasingly vocal in taking on his critics. He's apparently, according to the Daily Nation, he made remarks to the effect that he feels betrayed, and they tagged those, they read those remarks in light of what we are told is happening between him and his deputy. What other avenues? You're saying the politicians don't have to use the BBI or hijack the BBI to push, or rather to frustrate Ruto's presidential ambitions. What alternatives are there for the president?
Okay, let me start
if he's
with
unhappy,
that first.
if indeed he's unhappy.
Let me start with that question. Look at Article 150, the grounds for removal of the deputy president. Impeachment, in the same manner you'd impeach a president under Article 145. Impeachment is on the grounds of gross misconduct, violation of national or international law, or incapacity to deliver. Now, I said this phraseology of gross misconduct offers inexhaustible opportunity for the president to innovate within the challenges. If the president feels aggrieved that I'm trying to deepen a certain agenda, the Big Four, for instance, I'm trying to drive the Big Four agenda, and my principal assistant, because that's who he is, William Ruto is, as designated by the Constitution, the deputy president has no significant role except that assigned to him by the president. So when the president feels that these roles I have assigned to the deputy president is incapable of performing, instead is working contrary to my interest, you could find a circumstance to frame that under gross misconduct and then impeach him in parliament. Once he's impeached, he'll be fired. The president can then fire him. And then an opportunity will emerge to appoint a new deputy president. So I'm saying that the idea that the Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are stuck together until 2022 is a misreading of the law. The law itself anticipates scenarios when the deputy president may be fired. And I've just outlined a few of them. And you don't need, therefore, the BBI forum, you know, and the entire political elite, you know, rising again, is building emotions and weeping support and to get to the level where now you can say, we can all see. To answer Gloria, here's the thing. I have not said, and I do not think that Tanga wing of Jubilee are decampaigning BBI. I haven't said that. They are in support of BBI. What they do not support is using BBI to exclude the appointment. And they have a right to react to that. And I've said, reacting to any attempts to lock out will not happen in NASA, for lack of a better word, ODM-led BBI rallies. You get? Because these are political elite. They care about who gets power. And they care about using every opportunity to consolidate political support. William Ruto's supporters will not have an equal opportunity to ventilate why Ruto should be the person driving BBI implementation post-2022. Okay. So to do that, they need a parallel rally. But if BBI is not about election, then they would say we support. What Kenyans must understand, and I've already emphasized this, I can't say this more.
Let's also give Gloria an opportunity to respond to that. And for another day, I'd like you to comment on the fact, when you talk about impeaching the deputy president, something that's come up, especially after the Naivasha meeting, is who controls parliament. Parliament is planning to reopen this coming week, and there's been that, you know, those barbs traded over who has the numbers. All right, Gloria.
Oliver, I would like to say that it's very unfortunate that this initiative is being used as a tool for all sorts of personal agendas. And I think what we witnessed in Kitui this past weekend should be an awakening for the political elite, because it is the one moment where actually the common mwananchi said, no, this is something that is supposed to unite the people. And so what are you doing, you know, kicking Moses Kuria out of this? And I think in that respect, for me, I'm still optimistic about what this initiative can achieve and where we're going with it. And I wish that this whole political angle of it would actually just be eliminated, so to speak, and we would let the task force, that the 14-member task force, just deal with the issues and go about their way of implementing this initiative, because I think that's where the common mwananchi is actually going to benefit. These other political rallies of people going to podiums, kicking out each other, whatever, that is a whole other element that, to be honest, I don't even think the common mwananchi is interested in. We are interested in issue-based politics, and that's where I hope that we are going to start, you know, going with this initiative.
All right, thank you so very much. Gloria, Oroba,
Bien.
Right, Bien?
Yes.
All right. And Steve Ogolla, advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. That's it for AM Live Plus, coming up at 11 NTV Sasa.